How's it going, Penguin fans? Welcome to The Waddle, a show brought to you by Gritusports. My name is Dominic Colella. Joined with me is my friend Jamie Thompson and Alex Price, all three members of Gritusports. Jamie, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Don. Very excited to be here. First episode of The Waddle. Took us a little bit to iron out the name, but we got it down. We're ready to roll.
We got it down. We had a few names to decide on. We ended up on The Waddle, and I think it's perfect for the Penguin Network. I mean, what do you think? What do you think?
I mean, it's original, but it's what defines us as Penguins. You know?
Exactly. I mean, is it too tacky? Maybe, but I don't really care. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff on this show going forward, but specifically for this show, I mean, we're just going to get in depth to Youngstown State sports. We're going to get you an inside look of athletics going on at YSU, hopefully give you recaps, results, and what's going on in the future, and do an in-depth dive with athletes, coaches, and maybe students, and even just give you what we think about what's going on with athletics at YSU. So today we're going to talk about mainly some football, some basketball, because we're at the start of the season where we're getting to the hardwood. I mean, it's in full force. We're excited about basketball. And we're going to give you some recap of sports going forward this week and this past week. So we're going to start off with Penguin football. I mean, a lot has been going on with Penguin football. They had a good season, went 7-4, had some ups and downs, was a little dominant at home, went away, won key games away, but also had some struggles against those better teams. Games that could have been won, went 50-50, didn't fall our way. Alex, you were with me on the sideline for those home games, just bringing coverage, to our Instagram page for those big plays we showed. But you being on the sideline with me, what did you see were the keys to those home wins, and how did YSU stay dominant at home?
Yeah, so like Dom said, just being on the sidelines, got to witness a lot, and you saw early in the season the run game was huge. Tyshawn King, in the first 4 home games, had over 100 yards rushing in each game.
He was hard to bring down. He was hard to bring down.
I think Robert Morris was at week 3. He had 3 touchdowns, and then the next week or the week after he had 2. So 6 of his 9 rushing touchdowns I know came within the first 5 games of the season and at home. So early on, YSU set the tone with the rush game, and I think that's what they wanted to do. That was their game plan. You can kind of tell from what Coach Phillips would talk about post game. But I think we've seen the pass game come into play here later on. But that's what set up was Tyshawn King was playing great. 100 yards in the first 4 home games. Can't complain with that.
You can't complain. The run game's always key. It's Penguin football. It's grit. It's Gritusports, right? So we talk about grit. Even Tyshawn King was great, but it was a 2-headed monster with him and Dre Rushton. Yeah. They both had multiple times in the season, they both had great games. So it was hard to stop either one of them. You could rely on either one.
Yeah.
So to have that 2-headed monster was huge. How do you think Dre complemented Tyshawn in the run game?
It was a great, like you said, 1-2 punch. Obviously, I think Tyshawn got a few more of the carries, a little more work on the goal line. But, you throw Dre in there for a change of pace. He was a little better, I think, out of the backfield receiving-wise. But that's what you need and when you have that 1-2 punch. Look at the guys in the NFL, say the Packers, they used to, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. The Steelers now, we got Warren.
You got the speed guy, and then you got the guy that's powerful.
Yeah.
You both guys have different skill sets, so you're going to use both guys at different strategies and skills. They went on the road. They had, back and forth on the road. They had some key wins, but they also had some key losses, honestly. Some close games against good teams that had chances at the playoffs or are currently in the playoffs. Jamie, you saw those games on the road. Those games they did win on the road were huge, but the games that were tight, especially the one in South Dakota. What do you think was, I guess I don't want to say the struggle, but was, the struggle in those close games?
You guys talked about this team's built on the run, right? That's what we want to do offensively first. And in those big games, look at Northern Iowa, final score 44-41. You can't get into shootouts like that and expect to just run the football. You put more on Mitch's shoulders. He's a very capable quarterback. Mitch has been great these past couple of years, but you're putting it all on him, and the defense eventually has to make stops. And on the road, they just weren't able to do that this year. 31-34 to South Dakota. Had a chance to win at the end. Saw him move it right down the field, get into field goal range. The defense is going to have to step up in these away games. Definitely going to come to a head here soon. Right? You've got Duquesne, who's capable offensively. Then you're going to go on the road to Villanova. It's another team that's really good at home. got their record since 2021, 14-3 at home. They're undefeated at home this year. It's a capable team, and then you're going to end up at South Dakota State. We already saw how that went in the Ice Castle.
That'd be a tough game. I mean, we're going to segue right from what you're talking about to the FCF playoffs. I mean, the selection show was just this past Sunday. The Penguins got into the playoffs. Like we said, they're playing Duquesne. They have a game at home, which is big in the playoffs.
100%.
You're playing Duquesne at home. It's a night game. You get Ohio State and Michigan early in the game, so hopefully you got good fan turnout for that late game. I mean, the Penguins, you think the Penguins snuck in, Jamie?
I think they may have. I didn't think they were going to make it in. Just kind of looking at the rankings, because that's really all you can go off of. It's not like there's a committee that puts out weekly rankings like for the FBS. So you're looking at that top 25. The Gwins have been fighting on the edge there. And when you look at the resume, they've got a huge win at home over Southern Illinois. But the road, the struggles, unable to beat Northern Iowa, couldn't beat South Dakota. Your two road wins came against Indiana State and Murray State, two teams that aren't very good. I just didn't see them getting in, but somehow they snuck in. I'm glad. I love Penguin football. But then to put on top of it, you have a home game. It's a team that barely snuck in, and now you're playing at home.
Exactly.
How does that happen?
I mean, that's huge. I mean, the bidding for home games is an interesting dynamic for the FCS playoffs, especially for that round one game. You know, it's really the higher bid. I mean, you had Duquesne who won their conference and got that auto bid, but you got the Penguins had that higher bid for the home game. I believe it was somewhere around like $50K, I think was the number.
I feel like that's not a lot for a home playoff
You
game.
know,
That's kind of crazy.
I was unaware of the bidding process. He was texting me about it. I didn't know that was a thing. But like you said, that home game is huge. We're 5-0 against Duquesne, I think, in the last 10 years. We played them at home last year, beat them by 17, and then the Penguins are 16 straight playoff wins at home. So when they're at home in the playoffs, they win going back to the 90s. So
that's a big stat right
I'm
there.
thinking win. I'm thinking win.
Yeah,
right?
I'm taking Penguins.
16 straight. I mean, how can you bet against?
I mean, you went almost undefeated at the Ice Castle this year. The one loss is against the number one team in the nation. I mean, you were hopeful you win that game.
In that game, I think, like we were on the sideline for that one. That game could have went. But that game could have been a little more back and forth than it was. I think
it could have been different.
There's a few calls I think that changed the momentum of the game for South Dakota.
Especially in that first half.
State. Oh yeah, so many bad calls in my opinion.
We were right there on the sideline.
Right
we were right in front of
we
both
saw
those calls.
We saw it with our own two eyes.
The one call was the whistle during the middle of the play. How do you do that?
Yeah.
The next, I don't know if it was the very next play or the second to very next play, was the late hit out of bounds. That wasn't called, that everyone saw.
And then you get a blocked kick. Then they drive down, kick a field goal before half and go up 20-0. I mean, that killed any momentum we had. But I think that game could have went a little different. I think if we were to meet them again, I think it would be a different story.
I think it would be a closer game.
But we got to win this week. But Penguins.
We're looking forward a lot right now. But the game we're thinking about is Duquesne. I mean, like we said, games at home's big. We're playing Duquesne. We snuck in. Do you think the committee got it right most of the way in the bracket, or do you think Penguins did maybe sneak in, but were there a couple other teams that you think might have or could have gotten in?
I mean, there are definitely fringe teams that felt like they had the resume at least equal, if not a little bit better than YSU. And it's tough because when you look at these teams, it's not like they put a true ranking on them, right? So we don't know if YSU was the last one to make it, and they could have been the second or the third one. But, I mean, right away, there's a couple of 8-win teams that are left out that I was kind of surprised by. And you have UIW, Incarnate Word, of course, they came a couple years ago, start off the season. They count as 9 wins because they had a forfeit. It's really an 8-win team. Their only 2 losses came to UTEP, who's in the FBS, and then you've got Nichols, who's a playoff team. Felt like that was one that could have snuck in with 9 wins, but Twins make it in over them. Then you've got Eastern Illinois and UT Martin. Those are 2 8-win teams. Same conference, they played to an overtime game. UT Martin got the win. They had a bad loss to Sanford that honestly kept them out, and that might be the reason that Youngstown State made it in. It's because UT Martin lost that game to Sanford.
And I also think the Youngstown strength of schedule is probably better than this team. If you look at the playoffs, 7 of the 24 from the Missouri Valley football.
Yeah, that's huge.
I mean, that's a third of the playoffs is from our conference. And, like Doug Phillips always says, it's a tough conference.
Yeah, we were in those interviews every week at home. I mean, he always talked about it's a tough conference to win in. I mean, the committee obviously values the Missouri Valley with as many teams that are in currently. So, obviously, being in the conference, I think you say before, it's like the SEC of the FCS,
It
right?
really is. I mean, there's no doubt.
It really is. So, I think. So we haven't been in the playoffs since 2016. So if you go back and look on how the bracket is laid out in 2016, it's kind of similar. The record isn't the same, but you can kind of relate it to it because the Penguins had a championship run all the way to Frisco, ended up playing James Madison, who is currently now an FBS school. So you look at that game, a 28-14 loss to a future FBS school. It's not a bad loss. Obviously, you want to win the championship, but you're playing a future FBS school who was set up for, bigger success in the future.
College game day.
Exactly. They just had college game day.
Could have been us if we would have won in Frisco.
It could have been us. Who knows? Who knows how the future lays out for the Penguins on how that 2016 game goes. But if you go back to 2016, Youngstown State had a home game, won the first round, then they went away, they were at Jacksonville State, won that game, who was the third ranked team in that bracket back in 2016. You beat Jacksonville State 40-24. Then you have another home game for the quarterfinals that you win in overtime against, I think it's Wolford. So that's a big game for the Youngstown State. But then you go to Eastern Washington, the number 2 team in the nation back in 2016, or in the playoffs, and you beat them on their home turf, the red field. If you remember that game, or if you don't recall that game, I recommend you go. It's on YouTube. Go watch that game if you haven't seen it, or go watch the highlights. It's an incredible game. The Penguins scored 20 points in the fourth quarter to come back and win the game to clinch a berth to the championship game against the number 2 team. So
and that's the Kevin Rader infamous catch.
Yeah, right? Catches it on the back of the defender.
Back of the defender.
Last play of the game.
It was on SportsCenter top 10, I believe.
I mean, incredible. It was like
might have been 1.
It probably was.
Put Penguins on the map.
It did. It really did. It was like negative 20 degrees, I think. I mean,
still slinging the rock around.
He went on the NFL. I don't know if he's still playing, but he was on the NFL. He's on the Steelers for a little bit.
Yeah, he was on the Steelers roster, tight end. I don't know. I think he's still active as a free agent, but I'm not sure where he's at the moment. But if you look from those playoffs in 2016 to now, you got the home game against Duquesne. Then you got to go on the road, if you win that game, to Villanova. A winnable game, a tough game, but a winnable game. It's the playoffs. Every game should be winnable. You win that game, then you go get a chance to play the number 1 team in the nation, a rematch in South Dakota State. Anything can happen. They're a powerhouse, of course, but it's the playoffs, and we're Penguin supporters, so we're optimistic about that. So we love football. Football, it's been a great year, but the hardwood season is starting. Men's and women's basketball is back in Beagley Center. The men's basketball team, I mean, it's really back in full force. They're both played 4 or 5 games already. They're getting gelled together. The men's team, they got new faces. They got some old faces, I should say. Some transfers in, key guys that stayed. You got Calhoun still here. Jamie, the old faces is key to keeping the structure together of last year's team, but they need to gel, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe we haven't seen a gel type game yet. What do you think the key is for all those players to get together and actually play a full game well together?
I mean, we definitely haven't seen the best of this YSU team yet by any stretch of the imagination, mm-hmm. and it's to be expected, right? You kind of mentioned how many transfers are in on the squad, and we almost saw the same thing with the team last year, right? They started to play their best ball when we got into January, February, March, and that's what really matters, right?
Those are the key games.
Exactly. So in the beginning portions of the season, the non-conference home schedule, it's not great by any means. You're playing teams that are D2, D3, and as much as that's to my dismay, right? I want to see bigger games come to the Beagley because it's a great atmosphere, but it's going to help in the long run because instead of playing a team like, we'll look at Cleveland State's schedule, they've got Western Michigan at home. That's a tough game. It's a MAC school. Instead, you're going to play Bethany. That's a game where you can really get everybody in the rotation, start to figure out what your starting 5 needs to look like. And that's something that's really coming big into college basketball as of late. You get all these transfers in, you can practice as much as you want, but once you get into the games, that's when you really figure out who needs to be in that starting 5, what rotations really work. So that's what Calhoun has to do at the beginning parts of the season.
I think that's what he's trying to figure out right now because in those beginning games, we've seen rotations of different players in, different point guards, different rotations down low with the power forwards and the centers. They have to figure it out. They will. I do believe under Calhoun they'll figure it out. He's a great coach of the year last year. I think he will get that group together. And I just believe in Calhoun. I mean, he's a great coach.
I think you had to switch things around at the beginning of the season, like you guys said, transfers in, but especially because we played Michigan. Big sign Steelers.
That's right. That's true.
We had
There
to
you
throw
go.
off guard and show them our best starting five.
Yeah.
But so we got Dayton coming up this week.
Huge game.
Huge game.
Obviously a big basketball school.
Huge.
Obi Toppin,
He's New York Nick now. He's a Nick, right?
Yeah. He's in the next. What was it? They made the tournament last year. Made a run last year too.
Yeah.
For Dayton. And then you said we got Ohio, Bethany, and play Navy at home will be a fun game. But so far the bigger games are away, but Navy at home would be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Good test for us.
I think going back to that home non-conference schedule, I mean, you could go either way for it. You want to set up your team for success in the long run. You want to get those wins. You want to get those rotations in early. But you also look at that away schedule. It was pretty tough. You had to go down to Louisiana. Play the Raging Cajuns.
Undefeated at home last year.
Come on now. I mean, they're a good team. You go to Michigan, obviously always good at basketball. Michigan's always good at basketball. Then you have a game at Dayton, who's one of the better teams in the country and who could be a great team this year. So you have those tough games on the road. I think it's an okay schedule for the reigning regular season champs of the Penguins. But I think they'll get it together. And like you said, January, February comes around. That's when the key starts, especially the Horizon League games. Mm-hmm. Those games really count. You got a great league this year, like always.
It looks deep too, really deep. Cleveland State, I mean, they're coming back with a lot of good experience. On top of that, I've watched a little bit. Oakland, they look good. You've got Purdue Fort Wayne, who out of nowhere has just been playing out of their minds.
Yeah, they're playing great.
Yeah, and then always Wright State's at the top, and you're going to have Milwaukee as well. Freeman's back from Milwaukee, so number one scorer for them. But hey, he always struggles in the B, you can say.
I think it's tough to play in the Big East. I mean, we got a great crowd there.
Oh, it's great.
As we saw last year against Detroit Mercy. I mean, fans might throw things at you.
Yeah, that's true.
But
we're gonna stop throwing burgers. Stop giving out food. Actually, stop giving out food.
Yeah, that was
too much free food.
Yeah,
the problem first. The band kids started just throwing out these burgers.
Yeah, they were chucking. Who wants a burger?
But the atmosphere in the Big East Center for basketball games is they pack the house. It's loud. Fans are on their feet. The student section's great. The band's there. And that's what, and I think it's tough to play. And I think we have to capitalize on those home games and obviously show what we can do again like we did last year. But that's what I'm looking forward to. I mean, it's just fun.
I'm
fun to be there.
I'd much rather be a basketball school than a football school. And it's crazy for me to say because I love football, but the basketball atmosphere with these small schools, it's so great. You get those smaller gyms, you pack them in. I mean, Stanball is great. It's huge, but you're never going to fill out that stadium at this point.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
Holds 20,000.
Yeah. Basketball, you fill that thing up, you get the crowd rocking.
Yeah, well, I was in that. You were there. You were there. I mean, those games that we packed the house. Those are some of the loudest games in an arena I've ever been in. Mm-hmm. One, because it is small and, the noise is just got nowhere to go except the court. So I imagine it's got to be tough on the players that come in. So the Penguin fans got to show up again this year. You got to go out and support this team. These teams, especially because you got women's basketball. They're back and they're good. They have experience on that team. They got six fifth years. They got a couple true seniors, Jamie. The women's team, they're going to lean on experience this year. How much of that experience you think is going to help them in the long run in this Horizon League? Because it's a tough league, like we said.
I mean, experience is everything in college basketball, and we've seen that both on the men's side and the women's side with this transfer portal. People having 5 years, 6 years, and even years back with Neil Jefferson at Duke, he played for like 9 years because he kept getting medical red shirts. But when it gets into March and these conference tournaments, experience is everything. Because if you've been there before, you're not shook by that moment. You're ready for it. That's what this women's team has. I'm looking for them to make that next step this year. We saw them have that tough home loss in the conference tournament last year, but it goes back to experience, right? I mean, you mentioned we've got 6 ladies that are fifth-year seniors. They've been there. They've done that. And when it comes to March, when teams make a run, 2 things you look at, good guard play and experience. And we've got both of that on this team.
We do. I mean, we got good defense. I've been to a few games this year already at the Beag. I like that good name. It's a good nickname.
The Beag.
But the experience on defense shows. You got a good offense. I think they're still trying to figure it out on offense, but they have the keys to figure it out. They got shooters. They have what you need to be a good basketball team. I think just like the men, though, they will figure it out. I mean, you have 6'5" Emily Saunders. I mean, she's a dog.
She's a beast.
I mean, we've seen her. I
Yeah.
mean, you saw her with me.
Yeah,
I mean, just give it to her down low and let her work, right?
That's all you gotta do. I mean, she'll rebound the ball, she'll block the ball. I mean, what does she have? Like, she has like four blocks? Or
Yeah,
something?
I mean, she was the Horizon League Player of the Week. The first week.
She's a stud. Malia Majestro.
Oh, she could shoot from anywhere.
So-
Same with Paige Shy.
Yeah, I mean, they're just chucking balls and they're going at it. And when we beat Slippery Rock, when they put up 78,
Yeah.
beat Xavier. I mean, that's a D1, big D1 school.
Mhm.
They look good those first few games. Obviously, they had a couple tests there. They played West Virginia, tough loss, but you're going to West Virginia, and they're much bigger than Youngstown.
Yeah, that's a good trip. That's a good experience trip to
Oh,
have.
yeah, I think it's good. I mean, we're 2-1 now, 3-1. I think it helps you get a loss early on. Like,
Yeah.
It shows you, all right, we got to fix
Show
this.
you what you need to fix on, because those big schools do show you what you need to fix on. So
Yeah.
it's a good learning process to have. They need to get back. They not need to get back. They've always had a top seed going into these playoffs or the postseason recently. They haven't been able to make it past that first or second round. They need to make it to Indy. I know they want to make it into Indy. I think that late season is sometimes where they may trip up and fall off the saddle, so to say. But I guess they need to keep that momentum going. If that women's team can keep that momentum going, I think they're pretty unstoppable because they're a really good team.
Start to slide, as you would say.
Yeah. It's
terminology.
hard to slide. Once a penguin starts sliding, it's hard to stop.
Yeah.
Hard to stop. So we've gone over a lot today. Football, basketball. We got a lot of stuff going on, especially this week in YSU sports. We got women's basketball. We'll go back to women's basketball. They're currently taking a trip to Las Vegas for the Las Vegas Holiday Classic. That's at, where did we say that was at?
The Orleans?
The Orleans Hotel and Casino.
Yeah.
Over out in Vegas. Sounds like a nice place to be. I mean, it should be nice out there.
Probably nicer than it is out here.
Yeah, so they're gonna play Rhode Island on Friday at 5:30. They're currently 2-2, so they're looking to go above 500.
The
So-
Rhode Island team is tough too.
We've
looked at
seen
that
it.
schedule.
Yeah, they are a tough schedule. They hung with NC State,
who just
who
beat UConn
just beat UConn.
by double digits.
So that's gonna be a tough game.
Yeah.
UConn is a powerhouse in the women's basketball
if
world.
you're new to women's basketball, just watch UConn. It'll be a good time.
So Rhode Island is going to be a test. The men's basketball are also in action on Friday. Like we said, they're at Dayton. That tips off at 7. YSU's 3-2. It's going to be a tough game. They're above 500. I'm interested to watch that game and see how that game goes, see how they perform, see how they react to a top school like that. We got football, obviously, against Duquesne. Playoff game on Saturday. That kicks off at 5. Pack the Ice Castle for that one because
Get there.
get there because it's going to be a good game. We haven't been there in I think 6 years. I think it's about 7 years.
2016.
So it hasn't been here in a while. Come back. It's going to be a great atmosphere, especially at night.
And YSU at home.
At
in the
home.
playoffs.
Always
It's going to
good.
be a win.
And vibes are going to be high.
Vibes are high.
Ohio State's already going to beat Michigan.
Exactly.
Cheaters. Hopefully Connor Stallions isn't working for Duquesne now.
Hopefully not.
We'll find out,
Hopefully
I
not.
guess.
So watch
We'll
your
have to patrol the sidelines.
big game at 12 at noon, and then come down to Youngstown for that big game. The women are back at it again at the Las Vegas Holiday Classic on Saturday against Northern Arizona. That tips off at 5:30. Going to go on the same time as that football game we talked about. So both basketball teams will start conference play next week. As we said, that's big. So you want to start off conference play with a win. The men are versus Cleveland State. As we said, they're good. They have players back. Did they win the league last year, or was it NKU?
It was Northern Kentucky.
It was Northern Kentucky, but they're in the championship game, and we were there for that
We
game.
were courtside.
They-
Well, not courtside for that one.
No, we weren't, but they have some players on that team, so that's going to be a tough matchup right there. So that's at home next, I believe, maybe Wednesday. That's the 29th. So that's tips off at 6:30. Women also are against Detroit Mercy at home at 6:30 on the 30th, the next day. That starts their Horizon League play. Always want to start it off with the win.
Mhm.
Then we got swimming and diving. They get back in action. The swimming and diving team are back in action, man.
Here we
They're
go.
going to Miami, Ohio for an invite down there. Best of luck to them.
There's nobody I want to beat more than the Miami Red Hawks. I'll tell you that much right now. The swimming and diving team, they got it.
Best
Miami doesn't know what's coming for them.
No, we got some
We're
divers.
Penguins.
We got some swimmers.
Everybody get in the car and go down to
Yeah,
Miami.
go down.
Listen.
What was that? Oxford?
Yeah.
Oxford.
Yeah.
We have some
Take over
dogs
time.
on the swimming team. I was looking up the rosters and stats. there are some dogs on our swimming and diving team. If you want to look them up, go on the YSU Sports website, go to the rosters, just look at the accolades of some of these swimmers and divers. They're really good. I mean, I know you don't pay attention to swimming and diving. Some of us might not, but we got some good athletes here at YSU. So
I put all the sports.
yeah,
on the
yeah.
map.
Go
Right,
take a
sure.
look at these
Right.
teams because there's some good athletes.
That's the point of the show, to get everyone.
Yeah, we
Get
want
everyone
to
involved.
get everyone involved here. We want to get everyone involved. So thank you very much. Thank you guys for joining me for this first inaugural show. I think it went great.
Yeah,
I
it was
hope
great to be here.
I
I guess
enjoyed it. It was
fans
fun.
will let us know if it was
hopefully
great.
they'll
or
let
not.
us know
Guess
if
we'll
it's
see.
great. We had fun. We were just talking here. We got
Vibes
our
were high.
oval
Vibes
table
are always
here.
going to be high on this show.
Yeah.
We got our penguin. We got our
Shout out
Jalir McLaughlin signed football. Shout out Jalir doing work
Shout out
in
Jalir.
Denver. They're turning it around out there in Denver right
I
now.
did not think that was going to happen, but they
They
sure
look-
did.
Hey.
Looking good.
It looked real
Russell
Bronco
Wilson.
Nation, let's ride, right?
Hey, you can't say that anymore. Sean Payton will come get you, man. They got rid of that.
I'm scared. Well, thank you very much. This has been The Waddle, a show brought to you by Gritusports. Again, I'm Dominic Colella. This is Jamie Thompson and Alex Price. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll be back soon for another edition of The Waddle. Thank you.